Anthony Belcari. We're here in Las Vegas with another power player. I wonder who it is.
How are you?
I'm doing good. It's great to see you in person. I know. All right, let's get the show started.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality.
Hey everybody, welcome to the one and only No Vacancy Live. That's Anthony Melcuri. I'm Glenn Hausman. We're coming at you today from the Blackfire Innovation Studio, sponsored by UNLV. We're attending a hospitality tech conference. Now, this guy over here, really important guy. We'll introduce him in a second. But Anthony, it's so great to. Well, listen, it was in the contract that I had to say that about him.
He just runs a complex with 7,000 rooms.
All right, yeah. Again, this is all right. So let's just talk to. Let's just introduce him first. Tony Yousfi, Chief Sales Officer at Venetian Palazzo Resort Hotel and Casino here in Las Vegas.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, it's great to see you. Let me just do a quick shout out to our friends over at Choice Hotels. I know all of you folks out there want to make some investments in hotels, and sorry, but this property was already just recently purchased. You can't get in there, so you might as well get yourself a beautiful hotel from Choice Hotels International. And now that they got those Radisson brands, they are better tan ever. Reach out to them, choicehotelsdevelopment.com. And if you are fitting into a category, women, minorities, whatever, just someone that doesn't look like me, you could get into hotel ownership with them a lot better and a lot easier than I ever could, because they want you to be powerful hotel owners, just like a lot of other folks out there. Tony, it's great to see you.
Good to see you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for your patience while we help pay the bills a little bit.
No problem.
Tony,
Waiting for Anthony.
Where was the last time I saw you? No, I was supposed to be at 1:30. I was here at 1:25.
You were
When
on
was the
time.
last time I saw you?
Had to be 5 years ago
Yeah, at the area.
at the Aria. Yeah,
You did 5-Star Secret Show together, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Did you approve it?
I did approve it. That was my doing. I'm sorry about that, but yes, that was my doing.
No. How much did you like that show?
I love that show. I really did. That show was fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how the approval process went because I wasn't involved in that.
Uh-huh.
But when you heard it, what did you think? You're like, uh-oh.
No.
Hotel Impossible guy's crazy.
No, I didn't think that. I was like, how do we get on? How do we do it? Let's do it.
And you guys, and that's where
It was something. Yeah, it was exciting. It's always nice to change it up a little
Well,
bit.
we were speaking about changing it up a little bit. I mean, you just started as
90
Chief
days.
Sales Officer 90 days ago. Congratulations on
Thank
making
you.
it through the probation period.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm almost there. I think I'm at there's about 4 more days, so I got to watch what I say.
All right, good. Well, too bad this is going out tomorrow or today if you guys are watching this right now. Or in the past if you're watching it out of the catalog. I don't know. But how cool is that to be Chief Sales Officer of the largest casino resort conference complex
In the world.
Well, maybe in our known universe. I don't know.
It was really, I said this before when I first started, it's being in the city for 22 years. For 22 years, I literally always had a dream walking into that place and just seeing, like today, for example, we have 20,000 convention guests in the hotel today. Last week we had 10. The numbers are just, mind-boggling. I just never thought it would be possible.
20,000 convention guests is more than Madison Square Garden.
Yeah,
holds.
today. You can't even walk. It's so funny. It's like you're finding your way and shoveling through the spaces. And
What's amazing about the Venetian, when it first opened, there was there's still nothing like it. And it still feels new. It still feels fresh. It still feels like the first time I walked into it. And every single time I walk through that lobby, I'm always looking up. I'm always looking at the ceiling. I'm always feeling for the first time, even though I've been through there 100 times.
Yeah. And the team, we have a lot of team members that have been there for 20 plus years. It's amazing. We have 48 people in the sales office.
48
in the sales office alone. And out of those 48, I'm thinking more than 50% have been there 10 to 12 years or more. I mean, Joe, who came over with me today, I think he just did 20 years, right? So where I'm trying to go with this is there's a lot of pride. And when you have a lot of pride in the employees, they treat it like it's their house. So it's amazing when you're walking down the areas or the convention space, how many people are leaning over and picking up trash that's not theirs, and or they're taking bottles and they're taking cups off the different areas and moving around, and that's not their job. but they want to make sure that it's done right.
And I'll go one step further. When you're a guest at a hotel like that and you see trash, you pick it up. I've done that, not just because I'm a hotel guy.
You're great.
But I've picked up trash, or I've thrown out cups when I'm walking past something. And not only in your hotel, but in other hotels, just because when you run a hotel like that, it just feels so out of place, and you feel like you want to kind of, you want to contribute. So, but when you're looking, especially now after the last 2 years, and I'm hearing group business is bigger and better than ever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hearing everybody's beating their budgets and forecasts for 2022. So, what are you finding in reference to the group business? Is there a difference? Are people looking for something different, or is it basically you're just getting more of the same?
Or possibly we're in the middle because people are getting more of the same out of the way.
It's not saying that we want to, it's a whole different experience, that's the reason that people are coming back. It's one, they want to get back to face-to-face meetings.
Right.
They found that the energy level is different.
Oh, yeah,
the
very much
networking is different. They are looking at the program a little bit differently, from the general sessions to the breakouts to the collaboration, the team meetings, things like that are a little bit different. But for the most part, they're ready to get back. They understand getting back to face-to-face meeting and how to help drive sales, their own internal sales.
Right. Yeah.
And deliver hype and excitement and culture.
Well, particularly if you go to a place like the Venetian Palazzo in Las Vegas, there's something very exciting about that creates, I think, a good base of energy from which the whole event can build upon to create those personal relationships.
Yeah. When you have, it's pretty neat when you have, and I said 2.2 million square feet of meeting space, but the entire meeting space is secluded from the hotel itself, meaning that once you're in the meeting space, there's no other outlets and bars and lounges. So
there is that massive Starbucks though, right at the entrance of it.
The entrance of it, that's a good memory. And
please, I've spent probably a year of my life at Venetian.
So right when you pass that Starbucks, that's it, right? There's no, and then you enter the expo hall, which is another few million square feet. And then that energy alone of having 35,000 people in there and just walking in, I was just telling you earlier today, I mean, it's been 90 days and I still have goosebumps walking into that place. It's truly amazing.
So awesome.
It's comfortable. It's overwhelming, but comfortable, which I can't really explain.
I always said it democratizes luxury. That's kind of how I feel about that.
Oh, that's a really Can you use that?
Well, can I use that?
I've been saying that about Venetian for 20 years or so.
Smart.
Yeah, because it really makes everyone feels special at that place, and it feels accessible as well. Yeah. Where some products in this town, one you might have worked at, might feel a little too high end for certain people. This feels like, I can feel special. Yeah, and those rooms, because they're so large.
Guinness Book of World Records.
They just make you feel so amazing.
I learned that we don't call them rooms, we call them suites, right? Because I got corrected very quickly.
I hope you make it to that 90 days.
Aren't they're in the Guinness Book of World Records. They're having the
750 to 750 square feet for a standard suite.
Yeah,
Bible said room again.
Guinness Book of World Records say rooms. It's the largest rooms in the world.
Okay.
But they are suites, and when it first opened, I spent some time there, and it was just unbelievable because I thought I got upgraded. Yeah. My friends took care of me. I was like, oh no, everybody gets this. I ain't that special. But it was it's incredible. But I'm hearing that 2023 is outpacing from a group pace 2019. True or not true?
It is true. And no, it is true because it's like, you want to knock on wood, you want to pinch yourself, you're with everything looming in the market and you hear all this stuff going around and you're like, things are pretty good right now. Right. And definite business, we're at budget. Where are we going to book in the year for the year business? What does that look like? Do we want to look at the other market segments and look at the casino and look at transient business? Could we shift something there and making sure that we can build upon rate? And should we start looking at, should we start doubling down on 24 and 25 right now, just in case? I mean, these conversations are happening.
And that's something you have to balance because you're running both the group sales and that leisure side of it, which is so important in this town.
Yeah. as you know, everything is profitability now, right? And we
Yeah.
look at the convention business and bringing the right profile of guest in the hotel. What does that look like from a corporate customer to
Right. And
a
you're thinking about
trade
it,
show?
right? And it's
to-
important for people
yeah.
to understand what you mean by that is not what they're going to be doing at the conference, but their overall spend while they're on
Their
property
ancillary
as well.
spend. Yeah,
Right.
it's amazing in the last 15 years how much better we've gotten at looking at ancillary revenue, profitability,
Right.
casino play, group folios. I mean, all this stuff that, back in the day when we were looking at race, we were looking at, oh, here's the catering and
Yeah.
here's their actual and here's what it looks like. And now what about this customer? When are they coming back? What else are they doing? Are they going to the show? How do we hit them with different offers? Where are they spending their money? It's, it's a different animal now than it's ever been before.
It's like when stats went into baseball, when people were really looking at every stat. In the hotel business, we look at everything,
Yeah.
right? We look at how many times they had breakfast, how many times they
Yes.
gift shop, how many times don't hit the table.
Yeah.
Anthony. That's a rookie mistake.
But
But
you don't have the headphones on, so you can't hear it.
You have the technology to really drill down, and which actually helps the customer as well, helps the guest to really give them what they're looking for.
Yeah. And, and it now takes the emotion away of making decisions on
Right.
it, mostly for salespeople, right?
Right.
It's, well, Anthony's group's been here the last 10 years and they have to come back. And you're like, well,
Do they?
do they? And I don't mean it I don't want
Right.
to sound this like in a terrible way, but
Yeah.
if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. And we got to look at it from many different standpoints because there's other pieces of business out there and certain things, help each other or can we stack it on top of another piece of business to make make it look better. But there's so much information now that you definitely have to understand. We'll be talking about CRMs later. I'm on a panel and we'll be talking about integration. And we talk, when we look at integration from not only sales, services, catering, group dining, it could be ancillary spend. Now it could be casino spend. It could be all of that different stuff that it's just a different way of looking at business. And so going back to your thing,
Wait, but
yeah,
I gotta
23.
I got to ask you one more question on that formula because the mall area is operated and owned by a different company.
Correct. Brookfield. Yep.
So, right. So how does all of that factor into it? Because if somebody goes up to that new hot pot place, for example,
Correct.
does that matter to you?
Well, certain RMAs that we do have matter. That one is not an RMA. It's
What about like a Mott 32 or something?
correct. That matters. So look, the thing with those restaurants matter because it keeps the property sticky, right? It keeps the property energized. It keeps everyone there. And to your point, what I love about the Venetian, whether you're going next to that X-Pot, there's a karaoke place, right? So there's so many different things for so many different people. It allows the property to stay sticky and builds that energy among everybody.
And sticky is a word.
I know.
No,
It's because-
sticky is a very important word in our vocabulary, especially here in Vegas, that you don't want people to leave.
Yeah.
One of the reasons you cater to poker players because you just want us to stay in the property, right?
That's right. We want you to stay. Because you know why? When poker players have a 20-minute break, they go to the blackjack table. Do you know that?
You know what? I go.
It makes perfect sense.
See, that's how much technology and how much she knows. Because as soon as I leave, I used to do it. I don't do as much now. Because I'm so into tournaments. But I would go and honestly to win. Because I would win at blackjack and lose at poker.
Yeah.
So I'd make up my buy-in at the blackjack table.
Right.
True story.
We're getting better.
funny.
We're getting better. But it's going to be important. And the reason that I go back to why I came over, I'm excited that we're going to put $1 billion into the property.
I know. Yes, you beat me to the punchline. Let me tee that.
Oh, you want to tee it up? Okay, sorry, I jumped the gun.
Right? No, that's okay, Tony. The reason why I want to tee it up in a special way is because it's really symbolic of where you're going. But before we get to that, I think it's important to fill in a little history of the Venetian Palazzo in general. And we were talking about understanding more and overall spend. One of the events that comes to town every year, the giant Comdex event, right, really transformed all Las Vegas. It was created by the former owner, the late Sheldon Adelson, and he was able to parlay selling that event into creating the Sands Expo Center, which then got the Las Vegas Convention Center Authority to go, oh, we should do this too. And it transformed the entire city based on all of that. But the Comdex people don't really play a lot at the tables, do they?
No, but that was, yeah, you're 100% right.
Yeah.
I mean, I was fascinated just hearing you
It's
say
really,
that. It really was.
It's such
There's
an
a book I
amazing
need to
story.
read actually on it on Sheldon. And now that I haven't read it yet.
There's one great book all on the history of Sands, the actual Sands property that existed before, and how Mr. Adelson came in and bought it and then built the Expo Center and then knocked it down to create the Venetian. It's a phenomenal story. And my Sheldon Adelson story is I met him twice. Once at the opening at Palazzo. And I got to shake his hand and say hello. And then another time I was on the casino floor, and it was like he's the president of the United States, but instead of in a limo, he had his scooter. And he'd have these guys driving by him, and I almost got run down by him. It was one of the greatest moments of my life.
I met him, same thing. I just saw him go by.
And he has the guys running next to him and stuff.
That's funny.
So absolutely incredible visionary. Modern Las Vegas would not be here without him. And modern Las Vegas wouldn't be there without the focus on conventions today, which you're now going to be able to leverage for your success. One of the tools in there, now we'll get to the $1 billion renovation, is never sit still, right? The property was recently sold in an amazing deal where they did a sale leaseback kind of a deal.
So talk about that.
Yeah.
How does that work?
You know, it's with Apollo.
Yeah.
So fantastic.
And Vici Properties.
And Vici, landowner, Apollo Management. And I did my first board meeting, and it was fantastic to see what they've learned from what they did at Caesars and coming into this property and trusting the leadership at hand with our president and CEO, Patrick Nichols, and everybody else, and really relying on us and our knowledge and really helping them leverage this property. Have been fantastic.
So they own it and you guys manage it for them.
Correct.
Right.
Just so everybody
Right. But they don't own the land.
No.
The land is completely owned by someone else. I know you understand that. I just want to make sure that
so if the land's owned by someone else, the rights to the building are owned by someone else, and then you manage
the property. Correct.
And you manage it for
right.
Yeah.
And this is something that a lot of the major casino resort companies have been doing. MGM's doing a lot of this particular deal. And the whole notion is to be able to cash in on the asset you have now, pay down a lot of the debt, and be able to fund a lot of other projects that are out there, which brings us to that $1 billion reinvention. I'm not sure if that funded the renovation that's upcoming or not, but I do know that Apollo is getting very serious about making sure that this resort is able to continue to excel into the future.
Yep. So recently, you probably saw the article of our CEO and president announced the $1 billion investment, and it's
touching every space of the property.
Touching every space. And what does that really mean?
I don't know, but whoever did it in PR should,
I know it should really mean. But what is it? What are we going to be focused on? So when I'll dive a little bit into it because I think it's important to understand. It was exciting for me when I came over, when we had Patrick and I had the conversation, and it was, hey, I want to put $1 billion into this property. I want you to be with me, and I want you to, and I want us to do it together. We've been around Vegas for a long time. We've done a lot of stuff that didn't work.
Yeah.
You learn the most from that. And we did quite a bit of stuff that worked. And what do we need to do? And what's important for the guest experience? Like, let's really talk about the guest experience and the overall Venetian Palazzo Hotel.
And when you're investing $1 billion, you're not looking for the guest experience today. You're looking for the guest experience 8 years from now.
Correct.
Right.
You know, first thing we talked about, and we talked about the lobbies, you know, how are the lobbies need updating? They need transformation. How are we going to look at the Palazzo lobby and the Venetian lobby? What does that look like? We talked about, continuously entertainment and restaurants.
Right.
So one of the things immediately, which I haven't been, but you probably have, Hassalan. We announced Israeli food out of New York and Tel Aviv.
I'm very excited. I'm very excited about that coming. No, we have not been.
Oh, you haven't been in New York? Okay.
But I've eaten a lot in Tel Aviv. It's really, food out there is amazing.
So I'm excited about it's Israeli food, Mediterranean Israeli. Excited to not only it's just a restaurant, but it's basically a show within the restaurant. Miznon is also, we just announced that. So another Mediterranean Israeli concept, a little bit more of a quicker service than House Salon is there. We wanted to bring some shows into the property.
Can I back you up?
Yeah.
When you look at a restaurant, whether it be an Asian restaurant or Israeli restaurant, are you looking at that restaurant based on statistics of the clientele you're bringing into your hotel? Do you get a lot? Do you get a percentage of, or a good percentage of people from Israel or Jewish clientele?
Not necessarily are they coming from that location. It's more of what is not in the market today,
Right.
what's going to bring energy to the hotel, and how are we going to do it differently and still being able to achieve everyone's palate, that it's not so far off, right?
And what we're looking for is experiences, because I've never eaten it.
When you're talking about this type of Israeli food, it's much more, it overlaps with Mediterranean,
No,
and
I
all of that kind of stuff, right?
So it's also a show within the food, right?
Yeah.
So something that is, we go back to that word sticky, but something that's going to bring energy into the hotel. What does that look like? We're constantly looking at more restaurants that we own and more restaurants that we could bring into the property as well. Entertainment is another big one that we're focused on. We have 3 theaters.
I think you just said B-52s are coming back next year.
B-52s. We just launched Freestyle Love Supreme, which is Lin-Manuel Miranda Hamilton. He did it's hip hop improv.
Oh, cool.
So I just went to the show the other night with I took my wife and I took my 2 daughters, and it's hip hop, so they all love it and stuff. But people are throwing out words from the audience.
That's cool.
And they're just going after it. So
Is he in the show too?
He did one show, but he has a crew that does that show.
Sure.
He's the creator. So
amazing.
It is so fun, right? You're laughing because you're just not listening to music, but you're just dying because some people are saying some crazy things and doing some crazy stuff. So, shows like that. We just announced 6. That's a 6 musical. We're doing a 6-week run with that. That's exciting. The theaters are a little bit, when you look at our theaters, because the capacity is 1,500 or 1,800 or 700, because there's multiple different theaters, you have to understand what fits.
That's
and
right.
what's it's not T-Mobile. It's not
right.
Park. It's not 20,000 people.
Well, you might have a room for 17,500 shortly, but we'll get to that.
Oh, I think I know where you're going with that. So when we look at the investment, and then the biggest part is that we're working on are the rooms.
Yeah.
And that's, you're talking about 7,000 rooms. We're going to tack Venetian first and then tack a Palazzo second, but it's going to take us a year in design alone.
Yeah.
And what does that look like? Because it's not just a refresh. We're going to do it right.
So when you take down rooms, and I've been through many renovations as my hotels are open, are you taking 3, 4, 5 floors and then you're taking like 2 floors underneath and 2 floors above, so you don't have any?
You're 100% right.
Okay.
100% right. That's exactly what we're doing. And it's something that but it's going to be very interesting. Why? Because it goes back to the group pieces of business.
Right.
We're booking in the future, right? So in the group business, when we book into the future, and the group block is 6,000 rooms peak or 5,800 rooms peak.
How do you get those rooms?
Right. It's a small hotel, right?
Yeah.
You're 100% right. Man. So, and what do? Do we shut down the sales team? Right. Or we want to do the meeting space eventually. Hopefully, if everything works out, that's not 100% definite, but that's where I'm looking at design, and I have architects.
It still looks really good.
Yeah.
Though.
So, but that's a must. I mean, I've done a few of them now, so I definitely, I think it's, people are changing and adapting and modernizing. We have to do it. But once again, I'm looking at, they've done such a great job. I mean, I just signed a contract for 2031.
What?
I did 2031. So now I'm looking at, okay, is this going to take me 4 years to redo the meeting space? Because I have because when we grab the architects and we grab the construction workers, and they're like, look, you can't give us 3 days. You got to give us like 30 days on a 100,000 square foot ballroom, because we need to bring all the I'm like, well, I can't give you 30 days because I don't know where to give you 30 days. Right. So, I mean, there's just so many factors.
It's so complex. Just to give everyone an example of how complex these things could be, it was probably about 10 years ago when the New York Marriott Marquis changed their elevators from pushing any floor you want to in the elevator to you choose it and select it. It took them 3 or 4 years to get that project done because they were so busy they couldn't shut anything down.
And it took them 10 years to figure out how to do it.
Right.
Because that
Yeah.
was the most complicated
Yeah.
bank of elevators in the history of elevators.
Yeah.
And now it works. It works beautifully.
It's magnificent.
But it was so bad that when you said I'm staying at the Marriott Marquis, you're like, are you going to walk up the stairs or you're taking the elevators?
Yeah.
And it really, these projects that people don't understand. And the construction people
love
you
that
have here
hotel,
in Vegas, it's funny because I was thinking about this
Mhm.
driving over here. The teams here in Vegas have to be second to none because they're working under such pressure to get these rooms back, to get these conventions back. Because you miss one day. I mean, if you miss one day of conventions at the Venetian, you're not talking $500,000. You're talking multi-millions.
No, groups in-house are doing double-digit catering banquets numbers. So this is it's like the group we have in now, and this is, if you take it into context, we're right before the holiday, right before Christmas, and so
we're pre-cowboy, pre-Christmas.
Yeah, pre-cowboy,
I
pre-Christmas.
see some cowboys all over the place.
They're just coming into town. Yeah.
And where I'm trying to get with this group here will change the lives for so many employees this holiday. Because without a group like this in December, a lot of employees won't have Christmas gifts to give to their kids this year. I mean, because what we do is we go, we shift hours. We look at different things. We look at occupancy. Some people not, just different things happen. So it's so important, not only for our revenue standpoint, but employee standpoint. That's how important it really is to have.
Well,
a group like this.
to me, listen, you're an employee, right? We're all employees. And these groups help us all, whether it be a line employee, whether it be a manager, whether it be an executive. Yeah. And one of the things people say to me all the time is like, well, it's so much more expensive to travel now. Well, how much more expensive it is to run that hotel than it was 3 years ago? So things are going up, but the expenses, it's not like all this is, it's all going to the bottom line. And one of the things I try to explain, and plus you guys were down for 2 years or a year, and that's why you have to constantly give them an experience. Also, what I find fascinating is everyone is renovating in Vegas. Everyone is announcing new projects. Everyone's announcing $500 million or $1 billion. Yeah. So if you don't do it, and your competition does it, you're done.
Right. They have one major competitor that's putting $100 million into the conference center, for example. Yep.
So, I mean, it's, people think, well, are you making up for the downtime? And that's not really the case. The case is it's the same when I go to my grocery store, the prices are higher. I'm pumping gas. Right. It's higher. Everything is just higher right now. I mean, this is the real truth.
And you have a demand.
And we have a demand. You and I were talking a little bit earlier. Yeah. I guess when I look at what am I facing as a challenge right now, and these groups that had budgets approved 2 years ago for their upcoming conference, they need to go back to their board and talk about, remember that budget I got approved 2 years ago? It's not going to work today in today's world. And, we do our best on the hotel side, but I mean, it is what it is.
And that piece of business may have to go to a different city. And that's what's great about Vegas. It starts at Vegas and then everybody else picks up where Vegas. If you say no to a piece of business, somebody else says no, it has to go to a different city.
Yeah.
It just has to happen.
That's a very good point.
But you guys are at the pinnacle. But if I can I shift gears a little bit?
Yeah, man.
One of the things that is really important to us and to our industry is bringing people into the industry. And we know 30% of our employees have left, never coming back. Tell us a little bit about your career, okay? You don't have to go into the whole career, but how you started, and then what was your trajectory to this position? Because you have a position that there's only one position like yours in the world, in that kind of hotel. How'd you get there?
It's actually a neat story.
You started off wanting to do sales?
Sales, yes. I started in television advertising and worked at Warner Brothers Television and TV, where I met my wife.
And that is hyper.
And the job was to, when you first start out of college, you park your car on the busiest streets in Las Vegas and you walk into 30 businesses a day and you try to get your local pizzerias and lawyers and whatever. And they'll be like, hey, Anthony, can you get out of my... I'm like, but I've been here 3 days a week at lunch and there's no one here and your pizza's fantastic, little stuff like that. But I have always had a dream driving on the Las Vegas Strip I want to work in, I see all the fountains. I saw, all the stuff. I wanted to work there. So, I was one of those guys that I would call every 2 weeks to the director of sales at Palazzo and be like, hey, let me tell you a little bit about myself. They're like, listen, you got to go learn hotels. Like it's 20 years ago, 22 years ago. And they didn't hire anybody, who didn't know hotels, which was fair. So anyways, long story short, got a job and, went to my counselor, which is with my mother at the time. And I said, I'm going to leave. And she's like, but you're making good money at a young age.
Job?
So I went to go to Flamingo and I went to go work at the Players Club desk, 5 p.m. to 1 a.m. off Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And my wife was off on Saturdays and Sundays and she worked 9 to 5. So I would sit behind the desk, sign people up, but learn the language of a hotel. What does a folio mean? What does ADR mean? What is whatever, RevPAR. And then went on to go work the slot floor and sign people up to, I got promoted. It was an exciting part. Now I get to leave the desk and go on the floor and sign.
Right. So what that would be is someone's playing a machine and they don't have a card in there. You ask them if they want to sign up, right?
Sign up. And I figured out quickly that, and that was the first job that I actually had a quota. I had to sign up 25 people in a day. And if I went 3 days without meeting my quota, you can get fired. Right?
Really?
It was pretty intense.
That's stressful.
But I figured it out quite quickly that I was like, I saw these guys getting off the bus tours. Why isn't anybody signing those people up? They're like, hey kid, those are passports and you don't want to deal with passports. I'm like, why? They're like, it's too hard to type into the computer. And I'm like, no, I can do that.
Yeah.
So
take an extra minute to type it in, but it's low hanging fruit.
It's low hanging fruit. And I'm like, hey, you guys want a free Players Club? And they're like, yeah. So anyways, long story, got to that job, kept on calling the director of sales. And I'm like, finally, and then I was about to be promoted to a casino host and just on the slot side. And I called him up. I go, you're going to miss the opportunity to hire me if you don't ever hire me. Because here's what's going on. Right. He's like, listen, I got a administrative assistant job. Well, they called it secretary back then. Right. So I got a secretary job for you at the Bellagio and Convention Services. And by the way, you're going to be the first man who's ever done that position. Right. And I'm like, I'll do it.
Yeah.
It's the door.
Yeah.
It's the door. And
that's great that you recognize
and took another, first pay cut, second pay cut. It was like making no money, which is fantastic, but it's the door. So got into the door. Soon enough, I worked at, doing mail runs, looking at contracts.
Let's go back for a second, because this is the critical part of why I want to ask you this question. There's a lot of people I know, a lot of friends that call me and say their 22-year-old son's on the couch and he has no direction. Nobody's calling him back. He sent his resume to 200 people and no one's sending him back. Is calling him back. You told them, I'm good at what I do and you're missing an opportunity. That's what you have to do.
Yeah, you have to stand out.
That's not he's different. No, that is mandated. In today's day and age, you have to, especially now, you have the technology. It is 100% mandated to push and push and push until somebody says yes.
I would write letters to the director of sales. I just want to let you know I just got promoted, blah, 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 blah. Don't forget about me. I'll follow, like little stuff like that. That's right.
Amazing. But it's critical.
But you have to if you want to stand out, right? Because I wasn't the normal. I didn't go to a hospitality. I went to San Diego State, studied communication, graduated, but I didn't go to a hospitality school. I didn't come up from that same company. So you have to do those things, right? So took the administrative secretary job, did the mail runs, printer, copier. Soon enough, I got promoted into the best position of learning ever was, which is called the convention concierge, a red coat.
Right.
Are you familiar? So
for Delta, I am.
Yeah. So those are the guys that or gals that are basically with the meeting planner on the floor getting whatever they need.
Yeah.
But it gave me exposure to banquets and it gave catering and front office and every little thing.
And you found out where the friction is.
And I found out and what does it feel like to throw tables on the ground? What does it feel like to stack chairs?
Yeah.
Because later in my career, I'm buying those same chairs for 3 different convention centers, but it all comes back to you, right? So all of that stuff, and then kept on applying for the sales department. Still, it took a new lady. Her name was Gail Fitzgerald. She's retired now. She came in. She was the vice president of sales at Bellagio. She came in and she's like, "Hey, it's the first time in my career I'm seeing groups that are requesting a convention concierge in their contracts if they want to come back. What are you doing differently? I'm like, I just love people.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay. But I go, I want a chance. I go, I want to be a small meetings manager. Like, let me tell you my story. And she goes, well, you're too valuable. I can't let you go right now. I go, I'll make you a deal.
Yeah.
I go, here's the deal. I said, give me 3 months to train the next person and give me 6 months in the job. If that person fails, I'll go back into the job. And if I fail, I'll leave.
Right.
And I go, just give me that opportunity. She goes, you got it. And then I never wanted to let her down. From there, I moved to a small meeting manager, middle meeting, national director, vice president, so on and so on. Opened up a couple different hotels. But that's the story of, that's why it means so much to me, because I've worked on a lot of different positions and I appreciate every position along the way.
Right. And you have blinders on. You have blinders on. You're just like, I'm not worrying about what they're doing. I'm not worrying about what he's doing or she's doing. I'm going to do what I need to do to get there.
The biggest part is, and I would say as a man, it's pride, because to go in and continuously give up something or be its assistant or throw chairs, and you were a manager before, but you're trying to get somewhere, that part always gets in the way. And if you can figure out how that doesn't get in the way and you have a goal at hand, I think that's the game changer.
And you have to take risks.
Which he's done here. And the thought that you would actually go and earn less money because it would potentially give you more opportunity
3 times.
in the future.
Oh, I've done that many times.
Yeah, but that's something a lot of people I don't think do. They look very short term. They don't really think of the long term. Now, I understand people have to pay bills and all that, but
I got the best advice one time, and it said, hey, I didn't want to leave, and that was the situation. And she said to me, if you're really good at what you do, money will come.
That's right.
Go where you can learn the most.
Yeah.
And that stuck with me to this day in every decision that I make. Even when I left a company that I was with for 15 years, and I was leaving a lot on the table. You've been somewhere, you invested your whole life into something, and then you're like, okay, but I'm coasting now, and I want to be able to challenge myself. And could I do it?
Right.
And those are the decisions that you have to be okay with. And let me tell you, it's not easy. I mean, you
have to work your ass off.
You do
all the time.
I was so scared of letting Gail down.
Yeah.
I would come home, and I wanted to be home with my kids, and I wanted to be home with my wife. We would have our dinner. The kids would go to bed. Misty would go to sleep. And I would log on from 8 to 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. for like 3 years straight.
Right.
I mean, this is not exaggerating.
Course,
I mean, literally, because I wanted to stand. I didn't want to hit budget. I wanted to break records. Right. Those are the difference, right?
They say do a little more, you go a lot further. I work on projects all the time. I'm working with a company right now. It's not about the money. It's they have resources of so many hotels to help so many young people get into this business. And that's what my next 10 years in this life is about. It's about getting young people into your job, what I've done in my career. This is, if I sat down and said, give me your top 5 things, coolest things you've ever done in this industry, you couldn't do it because you have top 5 this week. Every
Super Bowls to Barcelona
all the
to
people
you
you've
can.
met.
I mean, it's things this industry of hospitality has given things that I would never be able to do in my lifetime. From the dinners, the international travel, the first classes, the people you meet, CEOs of Fortune 100 companies.
Yeah.
Going to their house and sitting down with them and their family and their kids and playing in the backyard. I mean, things that you can think of that.
Listen, you were responsible, not to interrupt you, to green lighting a show. We did a show called 5 Star Secrets. And a lot of people were saying no to us because I did Hotel Impossible. And people were like, I don't want that guy in my hotel. It's like, no, we're going to showcase your beautiful hotels. Yeah. And you greenlit our show. And that show was beautiful.
It was great.
And there was no money exchanged. It was just faith.
Yeah.
You give me you give me the hotel and I'll give you a beautiful show. And we did it.
Of course, we're talking about Aria.
Yes. Yeah, that's 100%.
In your last life.
It was, but yeah, those experiences, and you and I shared a couple things outside, and those definitely, you can't cheat hard work in this industry. And there's so much opportunity. There's, when I said to you, I went from an EMM to mid-tier to national to direct, all that stuff. Name another industry in the world that you can provide a true livelihood for your family and continue growing into so many different positions or different segments,
Right?
However you want to say. I mean, it's endless, right? You go to hotel operations, you can go to casino, you can go to food and beverage, you can go to restaurants, you can go to hotel sales. I mean, there's a million of them, right? Accounting, analysis, and being a P&L. I mean, there's a million things that you can do. Name me another thing that gives you, but resources, we have so many. And I think that's, when I was sitting at Flamingo, I'll never forget, and I achieved my goal, and I told you about the signing people up, right? And I signed the people up, and I got called in by one of the veterans, and he was there for like 20 years, and he's like, hey, slow your roll, right? He's like, slow your roll. He goes, I love that you signing 50 people, maybe do like 35. You're killing all of us, right?
Right.
So I'm like, okay, I get it. Don't be that guy. So I signed up maybe like 40 people, but then I went in and looked at every hotel in the world has them, all the classes, all the, how to excel in like Excel and Word, or learn different things about different industries. And they offer a million, like Venetian alone offers how to become a citizen. I mean, there's just so many things that if you want to be able just to get in and grow your career, I personally would think there's nothing better.
Listen, you went to college, but even if you didn't go to college, you would have been where you are today. College had very little to do with where you are today. Your curiosity. My favorite word is curiosity. And my second favorite word is vulnerability. If you take your curiosity and your passion and you drive that and you show vulnerability, that you don't always have the answers, but I'm in the room. How many times you've been in the room and you're like, what the hell am I doing here?
Yeah.
And you figure it out. And you figure it out. I walk in rooms all the time. I'm still going like, what am I doing? And just get in the room. I tell people, put your pants on, walk out the door, figure it out. And that's what you're listening to your career. That's what you did. You just figured it out.
I never forget. And we talked about this, and to get into the room, it was, I was presenting the new meeting space at Aria, the one that we were in the West Convention Center. And it was my first time ever. I was with Bobby Baldwin and the MGM board and the Dubai board.
Bobby Baldwin used to run that.
He used to run that property.
And great poker player.
Great poker player. And it was my first $170 million project presenting to both boards. Yeah. I walk into the room and I see like the people that I read about, right? The stories of 50 years in Las Vegas. And I'm like, I'm in the room. Mm-hmm. Holy moly. Do you remember where you were? Like in your head, you're thinking, do you remember where you were? Right. Like you're in the room. Take this opportunity to understand. But God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. So
that's our getting on the field with or on the court with Michael Jordan. Like a rookie gets on and goes, I've watched this guy play basketball, and then all of a sudden he's on the court. Yeah. That's our moment.
That's our moment. It's something amazing.
Hey, let's tie it back to Lin-Manuel Miranda. You want to be in the room where it matters.
Right? You want to be in the room it matters. Yeah.
In the room where it matters. But you just said my first $170 million project. Very few companies have $170 million projects. $170 million could buy 50 hotels. It's a $170 million renovation project. You're doing $1 billion renovation project. That's the GDP of small countries.
Yes, it's
insane.
I was telling you earlier, it's a lot of work. I mean, but if you truly love what you do, I mean, to this day, I race to work. It's insane. I mean, I don't know. I tell people, I tell young people, I go, find something that you love to do and have a passion, because it's not work. It's excitement every single day. And if you can find that, look, nothing is easy. I know you have to get up. I know you have to drop off. But like when I drop off my kids at school on the little drive, I'm like,
yeah, well, you have to do all that stuff. Yeah, you have to do that stuff anyway. You might as well be something you're passionate about.
Right.
So, but I'm racing. It's something that, and for me now, it's becoming, how do I affect the people around me? Now I have 40 48 employees that have kids and families that are young, like where I was, and they're trying to build a career. They have my story. They were in the front office and then they went to this area and they went to this and now they're trying. So I try to share as much as I can and try to, have them go for it. But I want to do what Gail did for me, for everybody else around me. That's that no one's going to remember me hitting budgets. Right. Honestly, it's because they don't think people have a short-term memory, but those people will change other people's lives and those people will change other people's lives. And hopefully they'll remember me for that. And that's my goal.
It's funny you said that. I was at an award ceremony last night and I was emotional just watching it. I just love being around GMs and salespeople. So I was at this award ceremony and the general manager, he won general manager of the year, two general manager of the year. So I'm talking to the gentleman and I said, where's that award going on your and I told the person next to me, I said, I know where it's going. He said, it's going in your trophy case, it's going in the drawer. He goes, it's going in the drawer. They both said it. So of course it is, because you're only as good as your last P&L. And because it's not about the award. It's not even about the P&L. It's about just doing what you love doing. If somebody plays baseball or football and they really love it and they're getting paid to do it, it's like, we love this industry and it's simple when you love it, but it's hard. Even if you love it, it's hard. But if you don't love it, it's unbearable.
That's 100% right. Because you're dealing with everybody.
Yeah, right.
And you're not going to have all the answers at every single time. And you're dealing right now. Yeah, absolutely. We were looking at, for an example, the chairs. You look at chairs that are shipped from overseas versus, that have different rub counts. So by my name of rub count, people sit on them, get up, you understand. Well, why are they $100 cheaper or $200 cheaper? Because they're going to last 2 years less. Right. So, and here's the reasons why. Let me pull it up. And here's the design. And by the way, this company that's here in the United States might cost a little bit more, but you have someone to talk to immediately, right? Yeah, all those little, not to say one's better, though I'm just giving examples. But those are the things that you're going to have to explain when it's your job to go in front of a CFO. Mm-hmm. And we talk about budgets and we talk about anything now. They look at everything on a numerical number, which that's their job. Yeah. They literally have an Excel spreadsheet in front of them and that's all they're looking at.
Listen, I had the same experience on a much smaller scale, but I had to talk to the CFO of a company I worked for because they were getting all bent out of shape that I could have spent less on flights with other airlines, but then I wouldn't have gotten an upgrade, and then I wouldn't have gotten a free meal, and you would have had to pay for that, and then I would have had to pay for luggage, and you'd have to pay for that, and I arrive in a better condition because I get upgrades and stuff like that, and then they understood that it was actually good value for them.
Yeah, it took me probably until I got to Tishman. I was the first vice president of asset management for Tishman, and that's when I got my lesson. That's when I learned, because you can't. It's hard to take the operator at when you're sitting in the boardroom. And I learned it's not their intention to not care. That's not where they come from. They come from finance. They come from real estate, and they don't know what it's like at 3 o'clock in the morning to stack 100 chairs or to run a night audit because your night auditor
100% right.
Right. And not make, coming out of college, $100,000.
Yeah.
I made $26,000 being the night manager at the Palazzo Hotel.
Yeah. And I would never give up that flamingo experience ever in my life.
You wouldn't be as good as you are if you did.
Even when I was at, MGM Resorts for 15 years, looking at those experiences and knowing where my strengths are. I knew, and one of the main reasons I wanted to do different things, I probably wasn't a good corporate person. I'm a better hotel person being on property. So could I do it? No problem. But where's my passion? Am I going to still wake up in the morning and still have that same excitement as opening the hotel doors and being with that team and understanding how to drive that if I do the other thing? And I knew myself in my heart that I was not going, and that's what drives me, right? And that's what makes me excited about what I do. So you got to know what your strengths are, and you got to understand, certain things.
I was a wrestler in high school, right? And what I loved about wrestling is you're part of a team, but you're held accountable for your performance, as opposed to being a tennis player where you don't really have a team. It's just you.
Yeah.
I miss teams. I was just telling somebody the other day. I miss being part of it. As a matter of fact, I miss it more than I've ever thought in the world I would miss being part. Oh my God. it kills me. I go into a hotel and I see a group of people working together for a common goal. That, to me, I said the other day, that's more fun. Getting back to the show we did. The reason I enjoyed that show, especially at Aria, is because the team helped us. Your team was there for us. You opened up doors when we didn't realize, oh, maybe we can go in there. All right, let's see if we can do that. They led us in the back where the cameras are. They didn't let us for the casino, but they led us for around the hotel, which we didn't think they would allow us to. When we were told in the beginning they weren't going to be able to do it, we pushed a little bit. They said no problem. And so it was a real team effort.
See how I say we pushed a little bit?
It was a little team effort from his team, my team, and then the editors. And when you get that piece of film or whatever it is, it's like, I don't think of my performance or how I did. I think about when I was running around the hotel and the security guard found me in 2 seconds. I said, no one's going to find me, right? They were looking at me on the cameras. In 2 seconds, he found me. And I still remember his face. He was just like that. He played so cool. He goes, come with me. Like that, to me, I miss that.
Yeah.
I want to give you guys one shout out because I think it's important, and because where I was in my career. And so I leave the company that I was with for 15 years, and I made a decision. It's 2019, and I'm like, I'm going to go. I was literally on autopilot for the last 2 years. I'm like not mentally challenged. And I'm that guy. I'm like, I don't want to do corporate. Thank you very much. But I got to do something. And I'm like, can't leave. If I leave, 15 years, you invested a lot in the company and your money and a lot of different things. And if I leave, I can't work for a year because certain contracts and stuff. And then, so I went back and talked to my wife, and she's always the smart one. I go, what do you think? She goes, why don't you just pray on it for a while? Pray on it. And I'm like, okay. So I do that. I go back and I go, I got to feel challenged. I got to do, I like my energy level. Like I can do this in my sleep. I'm going in work and I'm like, this is like, there's nothing it's a machine now. What value am I adding? Right. So anyways, I make the decision. This is where I'm trying to get to. I make the decision. I leave, and then COVID hits, 2020. I'm like, oh my goodness, what did I just do?
Right. Yeah.
I literally, and then I went through this like month or two of like, I can't believe I did this. COVID hit. I can't work for a year. I'm on different contract constraints.
To be fair, you probably would have gotten laid off.
I know. No, probably. No, they would have kept me. I think they kept everybody else. So, but here's where I'm trying to go to. I remember listening and watching this show, and I spent a month or two every single day. And the inspiration of just staying connected in the industry, in hospitality, and kind of like, and I don't remember what it was, but it was something like, hey, come on, kid, like Tony.
Yeah.
Literally, it's like my second month. I go in, I'm like, I can do other things. Like, let's go. I jump into this cool thing with Carver Hospitality, which, Sean Christie, and he gave me an
I'm friendly with Brian Bass, who did Mayfair.
Yeah. So Sean calls me over. He's like, we're raising money and we're trying to do this thing, and you can't work anyways in the hotel stuff. So let's do this thing. And I was like, I know nothing about this world, right? He goes, you're smart. You'll figure it out. And literally the inspiration of kind of like staying connected, doing all that, I jumped into this new adventure, raised money, did a whole bunch of stuff and exciting new things. And, but I remember that little moment in time where there was an outlet for what we do, that we can still stay connected to what's going on in our industry. And you guys are a big part of that. So I just want to say thank you. And I really mean that from the bottom of my heart.
Yeah.
You guys, I mean, it was a really hard moment. So
it was such a blessing, and I didn't know it was a blessing. It was a blessing for me to do the show because we all work so hard and we have so much passion, and then so it was a blessing and outlet for us. But people in your position and other people that would come every day. I call it our little square, our little town square. We all came. I don't care if you were a big executive in Vegas or you were, running a small hotel in I-70. We all came at 12 o'clock together, and we just happened to have the microphones.
Yeah.
But it wasn't our show. It was truly the industry show.
Yeah.
And it was the biggest blessing, one of the biggest blessings I've ever had in my career. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
That's very kind of you, Sam. So I would normally end on that note because it's such an up note, but I do have to say, beyond the $1 billion reinvention of Palazzo, there's another 1.6-ish billion going into the
a little higher.
I know I'm trying to be generous because I know it wasn't budgeted that, but because of inflationary pressures, it's going up. What?
Well, I didn't understand the question.
Not finished.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
we were just talking about the 1.6 billion, which is a little higher. Now going into the Sphere. I'm so excited about that.
You know about the Sphere, right?
Yeah, but how you guys?
It's attached to the building.
It's attached to the building
with MSG and
yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. If you walked, you've walked it right through through Venetian Expo.
Before we went in there,
Venetian
watching
Expo.
them build the patio.
I'm dying to see it.
So I can say this. I've been in the town for 22 years, and I remember there's a few like pretty good game changers when it involves events like space like that. Number one was T-Mobile. It changed everything that we always thought about Vegas.
And that is the arena that wound up bringing hockey and transformed this to a sports town. Now we're going more towards a music town as well.
Yeah. And then the second thing, though, was Allegiant Stadium that where Raiders play.
Beautiful stadium.
So that was the game changer. And then I can confidently say the Sphere is the game changer. And I'm not just saying that because of Venetian. I walked it. I've been inside 3 times now. And it is something that you have to experience 1 or 2 times in your life to understand that something that is built for 10 years from now, that we think that what something's supposed to feel like 10 years from now. Think of like, I said to my kids, I'm like, you don't know about the Jetsons, but that's what I feel like when you're going in.
Explain people what it is.
So you're talking about a 20,000 seat immersive the seats are 4D. So
that means the sound is going to be individually geared towards you.
Scent, motion, scent.
Wow.
So there's different scents, and if each section could be a different language, and no one would hear what it could be playing in Spanish, it could be playing in English, it can be playing in Vietnamese, it could be doing different things based on if you have a group that has different attendees, or boxing match, for an example. So imagine everything is lit up all around you, and the boxing match, you're in the middle of the real boxing match, but you're seeing it all around you. But someone hits you, and you're actually feeling it and smelling it and hearing it in your sight. It is something that is so hard to explain.
It is, because you're going to be surrounded in this globe with these giant screens.
And I don't want to say it, but I'm going to say it because they told me never to say it, but I'm that guy. But not a planetarium, but think of I don't know how better. It's an immersive experience.
I think that's a good way to connect it, except you won't have that giant weird thing in the middle.
The weird thing in the middle. And the outside too. So the outside could be, different colors, branded logo.
I want to know the musical acts that.
The rumor is U2 is going to open it up, but
that is the worst kept secret. But that's what I hear.
That's the rumor. But
will they have the residency? I want to know who's going to have residency there.
I don't know, but
I don't know.
Liar.
Such a liar. I'm terrible. My wife will tell you I'm a terrible liar.
Well, all I care about is because I'm pretty sure that
Fish is residency.
Well, they're the guy who did their sounds, their light system, right? He started with them by when they had one light. He wound up becoming like the top guy in the business when they redid Madison Square Garden. He consulted on it. So if you go to a Fish show now, they have the light rigs, but they also incorporate the lights in the house. So I think Chris Kuroda helped with this particular project.
Oh, wow.
But it's not just for, so they're going to have daily shows.
Yeah.
Every 3 hours or whatever. And they're going to have shows inside. So you'll be able to go in, sit down and
have that immersive experience.
And have that. I don't know what the price, I'm throwing $50.
Yeah.
MSG.
MSG owns it.
Correct.
And I know.
And you manage it, or
they're sitting on our land.
Yeah.
Sitting on, so they pay you.
I don't know. I don't know the dynamics of it, but
you have no other hotel. You have first dibs on groups.
Yes, we're still trying to figure it out. But for the most part, when we'll have our major groups are going to have the advantage of having that if they want to.
Walk right over to it.
Yeah, I mean it's connected to our building,
and it's also connected to where the Venetian Expo Center is. So when you're in that main lobby there's going to be a walkway that goes there. So it's easy to incorporate.
So you'll have the first, so a group coming in wanting to use that, you'll be the first.
Yeah, and also think about 20,000 people leaving that show and walking to our hotel.
Yeah.
I mean, there's.
I can't wait. So let me know when you can bring me through.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's going to be absolutely.
It's going to be a game changer in our city, and it's going to be great that, I'm sure whatever the price tag, it's not going to be, crazy expensive if you want to go see it like a daily show.
Yeah.
Just to do that alone would be something cool to do.
What Vegas has done is just incredible. When they brought hockey here, like I've not been to
I still haven't
a
been.
town.
Let's go together.
More
Yeah, we should.
insane about hockey.
I know.
I never was a big until I got here.
Yeah, and then everybody. I'm
It's just
a
being-
fan. Matter of fact,
I
when
grew up
when
NFL,
I
NBA.
played my PS5. I play the Vegas team. Like I just love.
Have you been to NFL?
I haven't done
Here?
any of that here yet.
the NFL? What's that?
The Raiders
What's the
game.
NFL?
Oh no! I thought there was. I thought there was
No.
an exhibit. I
No.
thought there was an
Yeah,
exhibit.
I get it. It's
Come
so
and sit.
funny.
Come with me and sit in our Venetian suites and watch the Raiders play.
No, I won't.
Yeah. Dude, anytime I will fly in.
Come
just
on.
For that.
We have a great. I really want to go to the Raiders and Niners game coming up. That's I think the day after New
Wow.
Year's. That's a big rivalry,
Nice.
so that'll be a fun one.
Awesome. How about promote yourself before we wrap up here? How can people learn more about how to book events with you?
You know, Venetian definitely is a fantastic hotel. Definitely look at us up. But moreover, if I can help anybody in the industry, I think is more important. I've had an unbelievable, great mentors in my life in and out of the industry and great people that helped me throughout my career. And if I can offer, whether you're a young person or a person going through transitions and different career paths, and if I can help you in any way, I think that's more important.
How will people find you?
My email's fine.
Yeah.
It's tony.yousfi@venetianlasvegas.com. If you can put it up, and I gave you the card and the
Yep, I've
information.
been putting up your name
And
here.
that
spelling
to
right
me is a lot more important than booking events. We have a great sales team.
I love
and-
you said that
yeah.
because when you asked that question, I was going to ask you to follow up.
Yeah. Yeah.
People are listening to our voices right now. If you want to be in this industry, if you want to get promoted in this industry, if you want to do great things, you want to come to Vegas, and you're not listening to what he just said, he just gave you his personal email, and he said it's his mission. He didn't even answer the question to, please, how do you book groups? He didn't even listen to that. What he said was, I want to bring people up. I want to put my hand back, and I want to lift people up. So if you're not listening to that, you're not taking advantage of that, you probably shouldn't be in the business, and you have other issues. Honestly, if you're not listening to that, we do this show for this reason right here, to give you access. When I was growing up in this industry, I didn't have access. And when I started getting access, I didn't keep it to myself. I don't want it for myself. I want to share it with everyone. So if you're not listening to him, and if there's not at least 5 people emailing him in the next month, people aren't paying attention. And, so thank you for being so kind and so open.
Thank you
about
for
that.
what you guys do for our industry, what you do for people's lives. I think sometimes you might think you're doing a show and not really realize how at certain points and certain times of people's life that you make a pretty big impact. So thank you for what you do.
Nice of you to say. A lot of times I feel like we're just talking into thin air. I don't actually visualize an audience and all of that,
You realize as you're getting older, like the other day, I had someone come over to me about, I do something for Cornell, Build Your Personal Brand. He took my course, and someone else talked about our show. It's like, I listened to it through the pandemic, or another person that got in the business because of the hotel. So it's all these years of work and not paying attention to how I'm influencing anyone. It's just doing the right thing. Like you're just doing the right thing, and you're going to help someone.
That's the goal. We have a great industry. We want to make sure we take care of it.
We have
Excellent.
the best industry in the whole freaking
We sure do. And if you want to learn more about our industry, if you're watching us, why not give us a listen on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, SoundCloud, wherever you get your shows, we are there. And if you happen to be listening to us, why not give us a watch? Watch us on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. You know where to go. He's at Anthony Hotels. I'm at Traveling Glenn. Any final thoughts?
I just smiled because I just saw our friend Sharon McCollum.
Yeah. Oh, well, you got to go because we got to be on stage in a few minutes.
Okay,
So, let's
let's
get
go.
out of here. All right, everybody. Remember, you've got one life, so blaze on and
Be kind to yourself.
see you all later.